And there we are, we're live. Hello again, good to see you, and welcome to episode 1 of Virable's Spring into Action series. This is a series where I interview the movers and shakers of the real estate industry to get their insights, strategies, and tips moving into spring. I deal with a lot of real estate agents, and I sense that there is a bit of sluggishness on the back of COVID. There's a bit of a delay in getting things up and going, and that worries me moving into Christmas and the new year. I want you guys to be busy. I want you guys to be active. And today we've got a great guest that's going to help you strategize your move into spring and summer. And so without any further ado, let's get this show, episode 1 of Spring into Action, underway. And here we are. My name, of course, is Jonathan Creek, because you can read it on the bottom of the screen. And joining me, just to my left or right, whichever way you're looking at, I suppose, is Chris Henry from River Real Estate. Chris, welcome to Spring Into Action, brought to you by Virable. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, Jonathan. It's amazing to be here. Look forward to seeing what comes up and how we can contribute.
Yeah, well, the reason I got you on, Chris, is because, well, look, let's be open about it. We've dealt with each other a lot over the last 3 or 4 months. We connected via social media probably 12 months ago, but met in person around Easter. And when we get together, we talk a lot, and we talk a lot about strategy. And I just thought, well, you know, you're a great guy to get on. You work in a bit of a different market, particularly for my audience down in Melbourne and across Australia. Some people, you know, and may not know who you are, but you run an incredibly successful agency in a regional part of New South Wales, and River really is doing things differently. And I think that's the main attraction to getting you on here is how can we talk about what you do and have people apply it to their own businesses moving into spring, because I just think that spring is so important for real estate businesses. Do you agree?
Yeah, it's generally a more active part of the marketplace because the weather's warming up. People have been sort of fairly inactive over the winter time. You're sort of only moving if you have to, or moving if you're sort of really driven to. And the spring market generally brings out a bit of buoyancy, a little bit of a good vibe, you know, wanting a bit of a change. You've got a few longer hours in the day, so you can actually get some stuff done. And that becomes really important because as things start to warm up, you're really starting to see more volumes of people being active out in the marketplace. So it's important for us as agents to be ready and having all the tools sharpened and the equipment organized and the structure in your team sorted. And we've kind of got a bit of a blanket rule with it, River, that you get your infrastructure and your structure sorted out before you hit the market. And then basically we try and lock it down. So whatever tools and whatever things you've got in preparation for spring, you will run with that structure right up until Christmas. And you don't look to make too many changes internally until post-Christmas, when you can then review things and maybe change. But it's kind of, once you take off on that runway, if you can repair it mid-flight, then you repair it. But generally, you've taken off with what you've got, and you absolutely make sure that you get your returns out of that, because this is the time to work with the customer.
That's really interesting. So what you're saying is, because winter can be a little bit slow, and look, you know, I don't think any of us have really experienced the market we've come back into, given everything, you know, everyone says everything we've always been through, but then there's been a massive assault on real estate, I think, from mainstream media to get clicks and views. And, you know, there's a lot of misinformation out there, or, you know, different pockets are behaving differently. So maybe the mainstream media have got the proof and the stories that they need, and what they're saying is 100% on the knocker, but I don't think it applies across the market. And I think that's sort of where some people have got a little bit confused or a little bit sheepish, and they've come out of not only COVID, but then interest rate hikes and then winter, and everyone seems a little bit sluggish and a little bit tired. And so what you're saying is moving into spring, it's not a time to reinvent yourself. It's not a time to try anything new. It's a time to go back into the tool belt that you've got and squeeze all the juice out of the lemon for the tools that you've got, and stop trying to learn anything new. Just go back to basics, focus on your customer, focus on your numbers, and push hard.
Yeah, I think a lot of the times, and I've been really guilty of this over the years, and that's always wanting things to change slightly or improve slightly. And sometimes what happens is you spend a lot of time building infrastructure or building process, but you never actually get a return out of it because you're already moving to the next thing or the next process. So you haven't really road tested it enough to work out, did it work well? Or can I get some returns on these thousands of dollars worth of investment that we've just put into a new strategy?
Yeah.
It's like the work we're doing with you, Jonathan, where we're committed to that work. We're committed to learning, and we're committed to adopting your teaching and we want to run that for a minimum of 6 months before we even start to decide, does it work or does it not work? And thankfully with the work that we've done with you, like, we've got instant results up front, and that's always nice, but it's not always the case when you're investing in infrastructure or people. Generally you've got to wait a certain amount of time before you can really assess what you've invested in to see whether it works. So we spend the winter time building infrastructure and process because our volume of work is always a little bit less. Just by nature of daylight savings, my team will do anywhere between 10 to 15 less inspections in the wintertime because
Really?
of after 5 o'clock, I've nearly got 1 to 2 inspections taking place every day in daylight savings. But in wintertime, that's rarely the case
Yeah.
because people tend to go home earlier. They're not as active. The weather's usually a little bit against you. So just by nature of more client-facing opportunities, we want to spend that all with customers rather than building infrastructure or lockdown in the office, continuing to work on process.
Okay. And I think you mentioned something really important there. In fact, I think you mentioned two things really important. The first one, when you work with me, I get your results. That's very important for this show. But secondly, you talk about measuring and
Yeah.
making sure that you can measure it. Because I think there is a syndrome out there where people who are doubting themselves a little bit, people who are struggling a little bit,
Mm.
will always find a way to be busy, but it's not
Yeah.
necessarily going to be the type of busy that gets you out of the funk.
Yeah, totally agree.
On both points, I agree. I presume
Mm.
on.
Yeah, definitely on number one, getting results nice and early,
Yeah,
and two, measurable results, and not willing to just shift into something new and shiny all the time. Like, really making sure that you got measurable ways to work out whether you're getting returns or not. And in a lot of the cases, you won't see returns for 3 to 6 months on any new process that you adopt.
yeah,
Um, you've really got to commit but commit properly, not commit loosely,
mm.
commit properly before you can really work out whether those results are going to come through.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things is that you can introduce a new process this week, right? And then
Yep.
spring will come up. You've got all these vendors looking to sell, or they've been holding off, waiting for
Yep.
spring. There seems to be this wait for spring, um, and then you could falsely apply the success of your spring to a process that you just introduced, but it was timing more than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think this is really important. Is that I find this a lot in what I teach is that people will look for instant gratification
Mm.
and make up their minds too quickly. They're not patient enough with
Mm.
what they're doing, even just the basic skills. Okay, the world is talking about how real estate is changing. The world is talking about how technology's infiltrating the space probably as much as any other industry out there, to be honest. I think
Mm.
banking and real estate are two that are really getting hit up by changes and shifts in technology. But at the end of the day, the business gets done people to people. You're still face to face. And I think
Mm.
if you're in the technology trap, sure, technology can be a nice to have. It can be more effective. It can make your life easier. I know that you guys do a lot of your paperwork and signing off and settling and stuff through apps on your phone now. You no longer have to go to the dining room table when Jenny and Bob are ready for you to come and sit at the dining room table and sign through pages and pages and pages of documents. That can all be done digitally now. Send them the documents digitally. They sign them digitally. You get them sent to you once they signed, automated, right? That's a
Yeah.
much easier process. So technology plays a role. But I think for anyone who's struggling coming out of winter, I think, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you're in doubt, just go back to
Mm.
basics. Just
Yeah.
pick up the phone.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, an example of that, Jonathan, is I still run with a digital diary being my iPhone, but I still run with my paper diary as a backup as well. So
Yep.
I'm running two. And that's just how my brain works. So technology's really allowed us to build efficiency, and it's allowed us to handle a lot more volume of business because it is super efficient. But there is a training burden that you have to go through, not only with yourself, but also with your clients. So you have to train your clients on how the new process works. You have to train your clients on being comfortable with the new electronic process. I know in a regional town, there's a lot of our clients fear email. They fear doing things electronically. They've come from an old school environment, and so you've really got to spend a lot of time coaching them through not only the fear but how to work certain things, because we can run the risk of moving our business too quickly, where our customer then can't engage with us because they don't have any knowledge around how to use the tech, or they can be super fearful of it and not decide to go with us because we're too high tech. And I've had those sort of comments in the past. I've lost business by being a little bit too high tech in some areas of
Wow.
of our presentation. So again, I agree, keeping things as simple as possible can sometimes help set at ease your customer or clients on that front end.
I think that's fascinating because um, here you are saying that you've got you're in an area where some people, not all, but some people are resistant to email.
Yep. Well, they're
Resistant.
resistant to trusting signatures on that arrive on an email,
Yeah.
or trusting a link that arrives on text.
Yeah.
Years ago, text was far the best form of communication for me personally to get a quick response.
Yeah.
Certainly, if I was sending a property link to someone, etc. But I've noticed that in the last 12 months, text is now becoming a little bit not trusted because there's a lot of links that sit in spam text now
Yeah.
that are questionable. So what we've had to do in that regard is ramp up our communication to our clients. If we're going to send them a text that has a link involved, then I actually call them to say, I'm going to send you a text that's got this link in it.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So you're
Technology
sort of
working
spending a
against
bit
us.
more time coaching people through the trust zone
Yeah.
before they actually become comfortable with it. So
I think
technology has really enhanced our efficiency, but it has come with a lag of training
I
and a
think that's
burden of coaching the clients. Yeah.
I think that's fascinating because you're in regional town of Maitland, and we think that Australia and everyone in Australia is all really close together and similar. But here, if someone rings you, it's like, what are you doing, you madman? What are you ringing me
Yeah.
for? Just send me a message or a text. And so
Yeah.
you got a market who wants the phone calls. I'm in a market where they don't want the phone calls. And so the poor real estate agent, he or she is only trying to put together the deal of your life, and technology's getting in the way. So I really like that idea of ringing first and saying, okay, this is what's going to happen, because we both know that all fear is the fear of the unknown. And so if you
Yeah.
let them know what's going to come, it's going to come from this number. It's going to have a link in it. The link's okay. It's from me. You can
Yeah.
relax. And
Yeah.
I think that's a great way to do it. It's gives you another opportunity to speak to them face to face. The deal is probably already done, but I think referral marketing is one of the most underrated strategies in real estate sales. Like if you can find one person selling or buying a home, they will have friends in the same situation, and you could scoop up 4 or 5 deals out of one good deal, I reckon.
I've sort of set myself a bit of a blanket rule on technology. If I can't resolve an issue or a conversation within 3 texts, that's definitely a phone call. It's not a text.
Yeah.
So if I have to send a text and then they reply and then I've got to reply again and then expect that they're going to reply again, that's just a phone call that sorts it out. And you don't have to invest all of that perceived communication of how they've received it, because there can be some real disconnection with email and technology there without the tonality.
Yep.
So I just try and make it a blanket rule. Blanket rule. If it's more than 3, I'm just going to ring them.
Well, sometimes my kids send me texts and they shorten the language into just letters, and I sit there
Yep.
and I'm like, what does SMLLQH mean? Like what are you talking about? It's almost whole sentences just done in single letters. So it's
Exactly.
it's crazy where we've come. It's crazy what we've been through. Coming into this spring, what are you doing to motivate your team? What are you doing to make sure that they're prepared? And what
Yep.
advice do you have people who will be watching this, wanting
Yep.
to know how to get themselves up and about and spring into action, as I call it?
Yeah, well, I think it's really important if you're in leadership and you're looking after people in general, and this includes your clients, um, then it's really just trying to understand where you're at, and take the approach like they do in the airplane. You put your mask on first, and I think that we've spent a lot of time talking about mental well-being and health throughout our team. It's really important that we get ourselves right and centered if we are to be able to assist the public, assist our clients, and be at our best. Then we need to get ourselves right first. So more recently, a couple of weeks ago, we held a health and wellbeing conference for our team. We brought in some speakers who really specialize in that area, just to try and flush out any sort of hangover that we've got of some of the COVID issues that have been really holding people back from getting a strong frame of mind and working forward in a positive way. So establishing just a baseline of what we've been through, and then helping our team really set some goals to move forward, and set some I guess some behaviors to get them all in order. Just a small behavior change that my team and I have all committed to is for the next 30 days we're just running a fitness program, and it's not like gym program, it's just like healthy body, healthy mind. So we're running a 30-day alcohol free, and once a day, we've got a commitment of 2 liters of water, 10 pages of a positive book, alcohol free, conscious of what we put into our bodies from a food point of view. And we're sort of committed to this 30-day program as a team. And we'll be there to help support each other. We've got a chat group set up for that. And it was really just about trying to make sure that as we come into a spring market, you're generally working longer hours. So you've got to kind of be at your best to have the right energy to approach longer days and to approach the problems that we have to solve on a day-to-day basis. You can burn calories taking on the stress of resolving a lot of problems that we face out in real estate. And if you're not looking after yourself, and I've been here before, you can run risk of burnout because you start adopting all of the energies that you take on, and it really starts to affect your mental health. And unless you've got a shield around that, and you're really at your best, then it can start sinking in. And I think we've come through an incredibly tough period of time, something that none of us have faced before. And I think that it's more important now than ever to really focus on your health and your mindset.
Make sure that you're all set to go before it gets super busy. It's a
Yeah,
great point. How,
yeah.
just personally, how did your staff respond to those sort of conditions? Like, yeah, particularly in Melbourne, we're moving into spring, which is spring carnival, football finals the next 30 days. And, I'm not a drinker, so for me, no problems. Like, sign me
Yep.
up. But there must be some people who'd be a little bit resistant to that.
Oh,
Maybe they,
100%. Yep. But we've also given them the opportunity that if they just do one part of it, two parts of it,
yeah,
three parts of it, it's totally voluntary.
yeah,
But we've got an ideal of this is what it will look like.
yeah,
This is what we recommend. But each one of our team members will adopt some of it. Some of them will adopt all of it. Some of it will adopt none of it.
yeah,
But I think as a leadership team, we've got to continue to set a standard that inspires people to move forward. And I think that it's really important that leadership does set a pace and a standard for the team to run at. And coming into spring, it's always in such an important time of year, as you mentioned. You set up your basically your first quarter of your next year from what you do in spring this year,
yeah.
and that's how important it is in real estate to get it right.
And I think that's just giving your team the awareness of looking
Yep.
after yourself. Almost, it makes you think about it. Go, you know what? Yeah, I have let myself go a little bit in winter. Um, I didn't get rid of the extra that I got. Well, particularly in Melbourne because we were locked in cages for 2 years. I didn't get rid of the extra from being in the cage for 2 years, and now we're coming out of winter. So, am I going to carry this forever? I'm going to take these kilos with me forever. I'm going to get back to where I was. It's really, really interesting. In terms of the market and the wider commentary issue, have you been experiencing up in Maitland, Port Stephens, any of those areas?
Yeah.
Because that's where you are. Tell us a little
Yep.
bit about where you are and whether your market has been experiencing any of this doom and gloom that the mainstream media seems to be keen to narrate to us all.
Yeah, look, I think that we definitely have experienced a slowdown. There was a couple of weeks there that we were quite panicked about what was happening. As soon as the slowdown started to take effect, it really is broadcasted widespread. So this from the people that I talk to, this is taking place globally. This is not just being isolated to certain pockets. And I've seen some funny reports recently that have also said, well, regional hasn't been affected, but the cities
Mm.
have. And that's just crap because it's happened across the globe. We have experienced a
But you're not
softening
looking
of
at
prices.
we're not talking about the 18% that the ANZ predicted.
No,
Are we?
we've definitely experienced about a 10% adjustment on
Yeah.
average. Some a little more, some a little less. It depends on the property's condition, and it depends on how much demand is around that particular property. But
Mm.
anything from our regional farms right down to our 1 or 2 bedroom apartments, even in a regional area, they've all had a downshift in values
Mm.
by about that 10 to 12% across the averages. But what we've also found that's allowed people to do, and this is really only just starting to happen now, is they've kind of adjusted their mindset to the new pricing. They go through a process of first stop, pause, assess what's going on,
Mm-hmm.
don't do anything,
Mm-hmm.
versus now we're starting to move through an acceptance period where, okay, well, that's the new values. These are now the conditions that we've got to work in, but we still want to move forward and see if we can arrive at a decision.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm really seeing two distinct groups of people in the marketplace. There is the one that is super confident about what they are doing. They've got the information that they need. They're confident about where they want to go, and they're sort of prepared and ready to get into it. Game on. And then I've got a group that I'm dealing with quite regularly that are very unsure. You know, exposed to the media, not quite got the information they're looking for right now, really unsure as to whether they should do it now, later, etc. So what we've been doing with the two different groups is handling them quite differently.
Yeah.
So for the unsure people, we're making sure that we're trying to work out what do they need in order to help them move forward. And if they're able to identify that, we make sure we just spend time content um, delivering. So making sure they've got the information, not forcing them into a decision, Just make sure they feel empowered and make sure they feel that they're being cared for.
Yeah.
That it's not about the sale for us, it's about making sure that they feel confident in what they're going to do next. But for the people that are ready to go, they're transacting. We've really seen a pickup in our transactions, especially in the last fortnight. We're starting to see our deal flow move back to where it even was during the good time.
Okay.
And that's contributing because we've got more stock on market. So there's
Yep.
more deals that can actually flow. And probably just a little bit more of that acceptance of the current situation.
So is your current challenge at the moment finding enough stock or finding enough buyers?
I think it's a little bit balanced. Stock is coming to market because it's coming into that general, I guess, time of year.
Yeah.
Buyers are starting to come back out, and I think that if you apply the marketplace with far more care and content delivery, I think that you will definitely see more business coming in through your doors.
Amazing. Chris, 3 quick tips. Say there's a lonely real estate agent sitting somewhere, not sure what to do coming into spring. Maybe they're self employed, maybe they're part of a bigger brand. Doesn't matter, but it's just someone with self doubt after a pretty tough period. What are 3 things you'd say to them if you were to walk up to the park and sit next to them on the park bench?
Yeah, it's a great question, Jonathan, because this is really important. Number one is you need either a coach, a mentor, or someone who cares about you, and to have someone as a regular contact person. So a lot of people reach out to me that don't necessarily, they're not in my market, or actually some agents that are in my market, even who are my competitors, reach out to me for questions and discussions. And I think it's really important to find someone that you have respect for, that cares about you, someone to check in on. I think that's really important. I've got a number of different coaches that do that for me. And it's about me setting some disciplines that I want them to more or less hold me accountable to. And so you've got something and someone that you're working with on this journey, because it can get a bit lonely sometimes. So number one, get a coach.
Yep.
Number two is don't be so hard on yourself. Like, at the end of the day, there's a lot of good business out there, and it's just about you connecting with people. And that's all real estate is. It's really connecting with people, identifying what it is that they want to achieve, and helping them through those processes. Really trying to break it down of where are they trying to head and how can I best inform them to get there. The caveat on that is don't also feel that you need to take on all business, because some business is not good for you. Some business is not the right business for you.
Yeah.
So you've really got to look at who you're taking on, because you're not actually listing property, you're listing people.
Mm.
So who are you taking on? Are you aligned? Do they match your brand? Are they a client that you can work with on a day-to-day basis and get close to? Because that's really important. If
Yeah.
I could only ever list or work with 10 clients, if that was my max that I could work to, I would make sure that those 10 people almost represent who I am and what I do,
Mm.
and in a similar mindset. Because if you're working with difficult customers all the time, it's really hard to stay in a good mood.
Yeah, it is amazing that if you pick the wrong one, it's usually one that you work really hard for, maybe out of desperation, you take yourself out of your comfort zone to win it. Um, Even in my business, and then that's the one that sucks the most life out of you and
Yep.
ends up being your biggest headache. And so, yeah,
Yep.
I think that's a really important point. Don't be afraid to say no if it doesn't feel right for you. You're not here
Absolutely.
to please everybody. That's for sure.
And the third and final, I guess, tip would be to just work hard. Like, really work hard,
Yep.
because nothing just reveals itself to you easily. I look back at my career and me being, when I was much younger, I expected a lot of results to come earlier. And I remember being so frustrated that the results weren't coming. But now that I look back at it, I wasn't deserved of those results that I expected or hoped to achieve because I hadn't put the work in.
Hmm.
And it was really odd that when I look back, I expected to have certain things by a certain age, but I hadn't worked for it yet.
Yeah.
I hadn't earned it. And I think it comes back to that serving mentality. I just continue to serve on a day-to-day basis and just allow my results to come from absolutely rolling your sleeves up on a day-to-day basis and giving it your best.
Would you say you're less focused on that sort of stuff now than you were when you were younger? And if your
Yeah,
focus has
definitely.
shifted, how did it move?
Yeah, definitely. I think in the early days it was all about me. I was really focused on my results and really focused on me hitting my goals and
Yeah.
me focused on getting, you know, something that I
Yep.
thought that was important at the time. But over the years, it's come down to more of, well, where are we heading as a movement or a team, and is everyone in a good mental healthy place right now? That becomes more important to me. And seeing some of my team members achieve some great results lights me up more so than me being really granular on my results.
Yeah.
Getting to work with people like yourself, Jonathan, it's been amazing. We connected. Our synergies, I guess, probably pulled us together, and getting to now go through your coaching and your leadership and seeing that direct result coming through my team now, that really lights me up. We get to work
Yep.
together, do new things together. My team to get some phenomenal results out of it, and that's a big tick for me, mate.
Yeah. Well, they're a great bunch, and all I can do is give them my strategies and my opinions, but they're the ones actually doing the work, and that's your point, isn't it? Do the
Yep.
work, do the work, and
Do
you'll
the
be
work.
surprised what. Yeah, do the work, and you'll be surprised what shows up. I think that's a
Yeah.
really important point. But just seems so obvious. But and I really don't think you're talking about the hustle culture either. You're not talking about grind
No.
yourself into the ground because that's not the sort of person you are. But it's also don't kid yourself that you think that you're doing everything that you need to be doing either. So
Mm.
hold yourself accountable. Be aware of your own position and well being. Take care of yourself. Take care of the work, and those two things will take care of you. I think a really a really good point and a great point to finish on. So, have you got anything else you'd like to add for springing into action? Are the canola flowers or whatever you get up there in Maitland
Yeah,
flowering in the grass yet? Because you had a lot of water over winter, so everything would be well
we
watered.
did. We had some really tough conditions, but there's always a headwind coming at you. Now, it doesn't matter whether it's COVID or floods or droughts or bushfires. That is the resistance, and it's just like doing physical exercise. When you work in a resistance, that helps you build strength. If
Yeah,
you've got no resistance, you're actually just not going to get better. So it
mm.
just doesn't matter what the resistance is that you're working against, it's actually shaping you up for where you're actually going to go or what you need down the track. So be grateful for the resistance, and get out there and do your best.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris, for joining us. You're doing a wonderful job up there at River. If anyone's looking for a sea change or tree change, you do them all. It's an amazing market that you're in actually because it has got a bit of everything. So you need a really wide range of skills, and you've really gathered a great team to do that. And I really appreciate your time today and your insights and being on episode number 1 of Spring into Action. So thank you for that. Thanks for your time, mate.
No, absolute pleasure. You take care, Jonathan. And if any of your audience wants to reach out and connect, then they can certainly do that.
Yeah, he's on all the socials. Chris Henry, Team Henry River. They'll find you. He's everywhere and shares a lot of information for basically no return. And it's what we need more of in the world, I think.
Thank you, mate.
Cheers. Thanks, guys. Thanks for watching.